Hello and welcome to the Merle and Locke podcast. I'm Merle.
And I'm Locke.
Set sail and low expectations for everything nerd, accompanied by a healthy, albeit shameful helping of pointless banter, lack of focus, and questionably acquired knowledge. All right, Locke, to start us off here, I had this thought maybe about 20 minutes ago where I wanted to get your thoughts on ghosts. Yeah? Yeah, ghosts. Now, how do you feel about spirits in the real world, or do you think they exist, or do you think that maybe perhaps they do in fact exist, but like all these ghost stories you hear are all fake or something? Or tell me your thoughts on it.
Well, I don't particularly think about them anymore. I used to think highly, think a lot about ghosts and the idea of their existence.
What do you think keeps you from thinking about them now?
I've had some experiences, and it is super hard to debunk some of them as legit and some of them as the fact that I was not sleeping very well. So whether it's a part of sleep depravity that was getting me to a point of seeing things that were in fact not really there, but I also have other people who are around for some of the things that I had witnessed, had seen, that even when they confirm that that is in fact what they had seen, I'm like, good, at least I know I'm not nuts. But it's still a weird situation. You go, well, that's you try to explain it to a person who doesn't believe in it, and they'll just laugh you off or go, I don't believe in that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that that you at least were more susceptible to perhaps perceiving alone these paranormal occurrences when you were poorly mentally and perhaps physically, saying you weren't properly rested and you were on edge, you weren't in the right place.
Right.
But that's when you were more susceptible to seeing these occurrences.
Right.
And you're not sure whether or not it's simply because of that state you were in, or maybe when you're in a healthier state, you're just not as aware of these things. Maybe you pay attention to different things over, I don't know, because when you're in a poorly state, I wouldn't say that you're less than what you are when you're in a healthy state as far as your mind goes. I feel like it's just two separate states of mind where like you observe things differently in one state over the other, rather than like healthy state you're complete, right? And if you're sleep deprived and not right there mentally, I'm just saying that it's not just less than the healthy state, it's different, you know?
Right.
It's the state of mind, your way of thinking, your way of perceiving, it's divergent. I think. Right? That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I've pretty much drilled that into the ground, I feel. But I myself, I don't know about the ghost stuff. It's never been something that, it's been something that I've been curious about, but at the same time, it's not something that I've ever personally witnessed, I feel. Like everybody has their own little ghost stories here and there, but I've never had one happen to me that I feel like, oh, that's not right, or something like that. because I feel like maybe every time something weird has happened to me, I've always, I've most likely just always reasoned it away with, you know, quote unquote reason. Yeah. Be like, oh, that was nothing. That was just this or that.
Yeah,
Like nothing
that
to
that
fuss
that's
about.
weird.
Yeah, I just like blew it off every time. What I want to do next, right? So I did some googling and of some ghost stories, and I was thinking about reading just a couple ghost stories to maybe get your thoughts on it. What do you think? You want to go for it?
If you want to go for it, I have a couple of ghost stories of my own.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, here let's read one here. All right. So this is one of the things that puts me off about ghosts is where they do it as some kind of they use these ghost stories as some kind of selling point, right? They're trying to sell something here. Now, I was looking at this one website where it's George Washington's Mount Vernon, right? So you can buy tickets to go here, I suppose, or tour here or stay here. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's near DC, and uh it I don't know how much the tickets are or anything, but they just have like all these ghost stories on their website, like saying these different stories about sightings and happenings here and there, and then that the place is haunted, and they use that to sell tickets. Now that's a point where I'm like, okay, this is just a load of crap, yeah.
Mhm.
But let me read you this one story I was reading earlier. So this story is called Washington's Ghost Haunts Mount Vernon. In the early years of Mount Vernon's Ladies Association, when the ladies were at Mount Vernon, they would sleep in the mansion. Now, the following account was reported in the New York World newspaper in 1890. Of course, the most interesting of all the bedrooms is the one belonging to the immortal George, and in which he died. In it is the original four-poster bed whereon Washington passed his last moments. This historic chamber is haunted. Of that, there would seem to be little doubt. Many people within recent years have slept in it, and they declare that they were awed by the viewless presence of the nation's first president. They deny earnestly that the notion is based on imagination. Few of these temporary occupants have been able to get any sleep. Obviously, it is one thing to see a ghost, and quite another thing to feel one. To be aware of the nearness of a strange and brooding spectre. They all agree that Washington visits his chamber in the still watches of the night. Mrs. William Beale and a friend of hers spent a night at Mount Vernon. At their own request, they were permitted to occupy Washington's bedroom. In the middle of the night, they were awakened by the sputtering of their candle. They had lighted one surreptitiously and were burning it in the middle of a basin of water. Fancied they saw a spook. It went out with a noise, and they began to feel alarmed. Mrs. Beale said to her friend, "You're on the side of the bed where Washington died." The other replied, "No, I'm not. He died on your side." They finally decided that the question was doubtful, and there was no more sleep for them that night. They got up, dressed themselves, and sat around until morning, scared by every squeak of the windows, and at one moment were sure they heard Washington's sword clank distinctly in the corner. "Ooh, spoopy,"
Oh,
But
okay, that's
no,
it.
yeah, yeah. Well, they have a number of stories for the entire site, right?
Okay.
Like little stories where there's been firsthand accounts of scary happenings on this property.
Mm.
But that's just how they sell tickets.
So it's almost like a tourist trap for a haunted attraction. See, biggest problem that I have, and I'm just gonna state it right now, I have a issue with selling off, even if it is a haunted attraction, using it for profit.
Yeah, when I say this, yeah, it's odd where it just takes away from the, oh man, like I don't know if it's disrespectful to say, but like the novelty of it, of a ghost encounter. It just seems like,
It makes it like insincere. I mean, you're going to
yeah,
this place and you're like, ooh, spooky, but you're paying for this, so
you
it's
gotta
almost
pay out the rear end.
it's yeah, no, you're paying an
Yeah.
arm and a leg, and say you don't receive an encounter, then people are gonna be like, I didn't see anything and I spent all this money. So some places might even go to lengths to spook you and
Right,
play
right.
up on the fact that it was once a haunted attraction, or there was something bad that had happened there.
How about like accounts where it's stories, like random stories. Like I always enjoy those random stories where people are where they just experience something and then they pass on the tale. Like maybe perhaps it's romanticized a bit to enhance the spookiness of it. But I always enjoy these. I pulled up this one. I actually have a few here, but let me read you this next one quick, and then we can hear one of your stories. How's that sound?
All right.
All right. So this story is called "The Little Hands." I've never lived in a haunted house, but my mother did as a teen, writes Reddit.com user Patented Spacehook, recounting a true event. Now, I mean, this is a trustworthy source with a name like that.
Right. Yeah.
Patented Spacehook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, buddy. All right. So, other houses on her street had strange things going on too. A few homes away from her lived a family. One night, the daughter went to bed with a bad headache. The next day, she was dead. She'd passed away from an aneurysm. After her funeral, the family went away to get their minds off the tragedy, and the father asked my uncle, my mom's brother, to check on their pets. My mom and dad, who were dating at the time, went with him. My mother had heard there was a grand piano, and she wanted to play it. My dad was studying to be a veterinarian. That's not at all important to the story, pertinent to the story, but they had to had to make sure they threw it in there. After entering the house, my uncle and my father headed to the basement to see the animals, and my mother went to the piano on the ground floor. She was playing it when she felt something brush her ankles. She thought a cat must have left the basement and walked past her. She kept playing, and then she felt it again. She looked under the piano and saw nothing. When she started again, she felt hands clasp her legs tightly. She dashed to the basement door, called my uncle and father, and waited for them. Back outside, my uncle could tell my mom was rattled and asked what was wrong. She told him what had happened, and he turned white. He told her the daughter who had died used to play a game with her father. When he played the piano, she'd crawl underneath, grab his ankles, and push his feet up and down on the pedals. That is a spoopy one. I like that one. Where it's like harmless, but it's very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you think would make ghosts hang around? Like, do you think like every person that passes on, like everybody becomes a ghost, or do you think it's the whole unfinished business thing that keeps a spirit around until they cross over?
It's really a whole thing where they say it's unfinished business, some attachment that keeps the spirit on the plane.
Now, do you think it's some kind of mistake? You know how like the Grim Reaper comes for everybody, right? But what if somebody and there's often times where people will say, oh, they died before their time or something like that. I do somewhat believe in fate, yeah. So I always think that yeah, when a person dies, like it was their time. But what if there's actually like in the ethereal world, the great beyond. What if there's a mix up every now and again? They're like, oh crap, homeboy wasn't supposed to die yet. He's like he needed to do things. There were some things he had to get done before he died. And they're like, no, you gotta figure something out. You know what? Like, we're your new employer, and this is your testing period. Like, you need to figure that crap out before you come work here. Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder if it is something where it could be something like that, where it's like, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you need to figure out how to get this stuff done that you were meant to have done before you passed on.
Mm-hmm.
Or else the spirit world will be unbalanced, or I don't know. I mean, there's no way anybody could possibly know this information. I'm just spitballing here.
I've made jests toward like friends and stuff like that. I was like, if I die, I'm gonna come back and just mess with you.
Right.
Absolutely, just going to mess with you. Try to create audio cues, move objects on you. Like, that's the type of spirit that I had aspired to be. I was like, just an absolute nuisance, just so that you go, I know exactly who that is. And I mean, when it comes to like my nephew or anything like that, plan to be there as almost like a guardian angel. You go super sappy, man.
Yeah, just avoid him in his teenage years. You know, there's a lot of like self-discovery going on during that time, and
teenage years. He's almost out of it now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I mean, he just turned 17.
Oh, he's 17 now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's almost out of the teens.
Oh my gosh.
I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah, okay. I think you're alright. He still has several shameful drunk nights to look forward to in his early 20s. Mm-hmm. That's always a fun time. But anyway, no. So you're saying that you would voluntarily stay back in the world to be a ghost or spirit or whatever, and I'm wondering if it's because when people encounter or quote unquote encounter spirits, it always seems as if there is like a pained presence, yeah, where like almost as if the ghost doesn't want to be there.
It's iffy. And then if I go off of my experiences, where some don't necessarily give you the pained feeling, ones that give you like a dread feeling, yeah, but it's almost like they were happy to be around you. a
Okay.
calming presence, like a guardian of sorts.
Yeah, with that little hands story, like stuff like that, where it's like a child, right? It makes me feel like I don't remember like what story it was from. It was from a movie. I don't know exactly, but it was this thing where the spirit wouldn't move on because they were in denial or something, where they didn't actually think they were dead, and they were just hanging out.
Little children spirits are an eerie thought. That's why they're perfect for horror movies.
Yeah.
That's why Children of the not Children of the Corn, Pet Cemetery did so well. The thought of a child coming back to life and haunting and murdering a family is a terrifying thing.
That is pretty terrifying. Yeah. Now, my thoughts are like, what would make that child spirit want to murder or hurt people?
Well, yeah, I don't know that. Child spirits are usually more of a calming spirit than an adult spirit.
Do you think that spirits could be corrupted? You think they're susceptible to corruption?
If if I go off of the story that was being fed to me with all the stuff that was going on with the spirits, which, mind you, I did things I shouldn't have done. I dug into it, and I mean I went to graveyards to seek it out, which, if you know, is a terrible thing to do. You're opening yourself up to things. That's so they say.
Oh, so you actually did these things.
I was seeking it out, and
You actually were like one of the main characters of like all those crazy horror movies where they're like, I'm gonna contact that dad,
and you know
kind of thing.
it's only white people that do it.
Yeah. That's so true.
We're
Why is that?
we're the ones that go, I'm curious, and I wanna see. I want to see it. I don't believe it until it happens. So yeah, no, I was the one that sought it out. Went to graveyards, trying to use my senses to feel, to hear, to see, and the first time, well, it wasn't the first time that we ended up stepping foot in the graveyard, but we were walking around one day, and mind you, it's just a bunch of guys. Just a bunch of dudes being dudes. Stupid dudes, but dudes. And we're out there seeing if we can contact anything, if we can sense anything. And as we're walking down the blacktop, I hear a little girl's voice say hi. And I cannot fake that. I immediately responded in panic, hi? And the guys around me were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, did you not hear that?
Now my question:
Hear what?
Like,
And
how much drugs were you doing
I was doing none
at the time?
I was doing none.
Oh, okay.
No, no smoking, no drinking. We just went out to do. It wasn't until much later that I was at my house, the house at the time, and I was walking by. Now, I'll give you kind of a general layout. So, we had like a living room, kitchen, which was all in one. And you'd end up going down the left where there's a long hallway. As you start walking down that hallway, to the left was the stairs that led to the basement. To the right, as soon as you pass the stairs, is a bathroom. I was going to the bathroom, and I don't know why. I had this habit where I would look to my left, just look down the stairs, and then go to the bathroom. and I just caught a short silhouette with curls for hair. That is as much detail as I got at the time, and I did a double take. I backed up, I looked back down the stairs, gone. Now I know I saw something. I was like, but that's weird. And then I just went to the bathroom. And I was still in the mindset of maybe I can try to sense these things. So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to open myself up and sense it. And later on, I'm talking to a bunch of friends, talking to new people that I met. And this one girl who claimed that she could speak and see these entities, which I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, how much could you really know or see? And then she ended up saying that she saw a girl with long, bouncy, blonde hair. And that's what threw me off. I was like, there's no way that you just saw an even more detailed version of what I had seen. And I didn't even tell this girl about it. I lived in the basement. And according to this girl, she said that this little girl also she essentially resided now in the basement. I was like, what is she doing there? She tells me that this little girl just sits in front of the television and watches the TV. And every so often will go to my bedroom to check on me. Like, go up to my bedroom door and check on me. You almost feel like a calming presence at that very moment. And she goes, reach out your hand. She wants to touch your hand. Wants to hold your hand. I'm already suckered in. I'm already biting. So I put out my hand, and I feel a cold sensation on my hand. And not all over my hand, it's just a portion of my hand. Enough for a small hand to fit inside of mine. And I feel happiness for a moment. To which then she tells me about more of the spirits that are downstairs in that very room.
Oh God, there's more.
There's more. And from what we were gathering is that a vast majority of them, maybe not all of them, but the vast majority had followed me from the cemetery. I was like, the little girl I kind of believed because I heard hi at the cemetery. I was like, so to all of a sudden start seeing this little girl and then somebody to confirm what I had seen without me telling them.
I wonder if children, like the spirits of children, are more like why it is that they're more heard. Because you always hear stories about children's voices. What is it that makes them different from adult spirits, where the children are more likely to be able to speak to the living? Like what is it? What is it that makes it that way?
I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I'm not looking for the right answer.
Maybe,
but
maybe,
what is your best guess?
maybe somebody can give us some ideas in the comments. But my guess would be, if I were to take just a crack at it,
Okay.
I'd say, because at that time it was a moment where I was thinking about having kids. So they would sense something like that and want to be around. So some of the spirits were protective and some of them were less than protective. They were evil spirits to some degree or another. And this girl had pointed it out, as well as the person that I was with had said this. Now, when she would tell me stories, I felt like I was being told a story from a movie. Like, it felt surreal. She would tell me about this dream and then told me that she had seen a man in my house who looked identical to me with sharp glass teeth and red eyes.
Ah, so man, I'm wondering what makes a spirit malicious. Like, what is? Do they just like die? Do you think they just die with like this inconsolable hatred in their soul, and it just makes them an evil spirit?
I
Or
mean, here's the question: is it evil spirit, or is this? And here's where we really get into it: is it demonic beings, right? But what demonic beings would want to play such a game? I mean, there are a few noteworthy names, and one of them I had looked up. One of them, because I used to mess around with the Ouija board. Once again, I was digging into things.
yeah, okay.
So when it came down to the talk about these demonic beings, these evil presences in the house, so I was being told that this little girl was down there kind of watching over me. There was another man in the corner who I had already kind of known about. She said his name, which was weird to me because I never told her about my experience with the Ouija board and the name that was given to me when I asked who it was. So that was another thing that she got that threw me off.
Is the Ouija board something you did alone, or did you have other people with you to do it?
I had a few other people there. Well, I had one person there with me who was also given a story on the Ouija board, and it threw him off, and he immediately stopped. Therefore, after he didn't want a part of it, he was done.
Okay.
I was told about the man in the corner, and then there was another child spirit who seemed to be corrupted, or like he was in the process of being corrupted. That he would stand in the opposite corner, tapping, and the tapping was supposedly to indicate and notify me that this man upstairs was getting closer and growing and getting stronger. This is where it gets surreal. I'm now being told a story. And it is a very well written story.
Okay.
I've been caught into it like a well written book. And I'm trying to learn more about these spirits. I'm trying to figure out how I can save these other spirits, but they are the ones who are supposedly trying to save me. From what? From what? But I had a lot going on at that time. A lot of stuff that was building up. So, is it a part of a psyche that was being thrown out into a spiritual plane? I could not explain to you. But there was one day that I was home, and my mother was there with me, and she noticed that there was weird things going on. I had told her about some of my experiences. She scolded me for being caught up in stuff like this and Ouija boards and whatnot. She hated that. So one day we had like a wind chime inside the house, which hung in the archway leading to that stair, or leading down the hall, just before you go down the hall. So here's this wooden wind chime, big heavy wooden wind chime, the spiral kind. And she calls out to me and asks me to come here. I go up to her. She points above my head, and I see this thing just slowly spinning. And I'm trying to debunk it and go, well, maybe you walked by it fast and just got it to spin. And I'm there trying to walk by it really fast. I'm there trying to move my hand really fast to see if I can create enough wind to get it to blow, and this thing just barely budged. Like, I couldn't get it to imitate the speed that it was going. Shortly after her and I were pointing this out, downstairs in the basement, down by the door that the boy child was hanging out at, I hear a door opening, shutting, like slamming shut. And it's just doosh, 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 doosh. And I'm shaking. I run down the stairs. I'm screaming at this fucking thing to stop. Stop slamming the door. And I'm trying to hold the door, and it feels like somebody's holding the door from the other side of it. And I only get it to crack, and I can see only a silhouette of a head and what seems to be faded red eyes on the other side of the door. That's all I can remember from that scenario, and I've asked my mom if she remembers that day, and she says she does. Which leads me to go, I wasn't imagining that.
Right.
She was not downstairs for that whole last part that I told you about, but she remembers the door slamming. She remembers the moving wind chime. Those are things that I cannot fake. I cannot explain to you. These things had affected my dreams as well. I had dreams where they felt like I was awake for it. And the dream was I got out of my bed. I went over to my door, which led over into the opening. It was almost like a living room downstairs. It's where the little girl was said to be watching the TV. So I open my door and look over there, and I see this swirling black mass in the upper right corner of the room adjacent to my room. And I'm stuck in place as this black mass shoots down the wall, across the floor, and disappears out of my sight until it pops up in my face. And I wake up, and I can't breathe. I'm gasping for air.
It makes me think, right? So, you mentioned that boy that would stand in the corner and tap his foot, like this boy that was, you said, in the process of being corrupted, seemingly?
It seems like it was getting closer to the boy, yeah.
Right. So this boy would try to warn you, try to, like, as best as a child could, to warn someone of harm, right? With trying to be as brave as they can, but still, like, scared out of their mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes me wonder, right, if the spiritual world is something that we know so little, we're so naive, and spirits, or the quote unquote good spirits, they will be in that spiritual realm, and they will try to do whatever they can to keep us away from it, as if they're like, do not, like, you have no business delving into this. You do not know what horrors live here. It's like they're trying to keep us away as best they can. While there's this entire battle going on within our world that we cannot see. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Where all these horrors exist, but we just cannot see these horrors. And these good spirits are trying to not necessarily combat these evil spirits, or perhaps just trying to hold them at bay from the living, right? Trying to warn us, trying to direct us in different directions, give us little red herrings to distract us from the truth, maybe. And maybe that entire experience of that time that you had with all these horrors, these terrible dreams you had, these sightings, these things that you weren't completely sure were real or not. It's seemingly so, but it seems so unbelievable. Maybe it's those spirits trying to instill disbelief in you. Like somehow they can instill some kind of disbelief in you just so you will not pursue it any longer. And maybe by doing that, they perhaps saved you from some kind of ill fate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? I mean, that could very well be something. Like, obviously, I'm talking out my ass. I don't know anything. I'm just coming up with stuff trying to make sense of it because, like, there is things like that happen. These inexplicable things that happen to people, and admittedly, sometimes it becomes obsessive. But maybe there's a reason why we at least somewhat doubt ourselves in these stories. I do recall a time where me and my brother will discuss this time when we were children, where the house we grew up in, there was this big hill outside that went down into a dark forest. Like we were right on the edge of this big forest, and so we would explore that forest all the time as children, but it was winter time, and we would go sledding down this big hill in the back of our house and go down into the forest. And I recalled this image where I was sitting on the top of the hill and I was looking down, and out of nowhere, it looks like some kind of large white bear, not necessarily a polar bear, but it just seemed like this large white bear that came out of the forest and like reared up on its, like stood up on its back legs and was growling, right? And I saw that image so vividly, and then all of a sudden I blacked out, right? And like it was odd, because it was just like this it wasn't an image, but it was like a memory. Yeah, the short like 10-second memory. And I discussed it with my brother, and he said he remembered the same thing, but he thought it was a dream, so he never talked about it. And still to this day, we talk about it sometimes, and like how weird it is that we both have these sequence of events, where I think he was at a different part of the hill. He wasn't where I was, but he was at a different part, and he remembers that happening. And it's such a weird thing where we both remember this small thing, but we don't remember it being real. It seems real. I mean, we remember it as being real, but then we're like, no, it's not. Obviously, there's no polar bears that were in our forest or whatever. But it's these weird things where there's a reason why we doubt ourselves, I feel. And it could mean, maybe we're just being protected by the ethereal world and its inhabitants.
The other idea that I came up with is maybe the ethereal world is also a mirror of our own world, but seen a different way.
Yeah, the upside down.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
like
essentially upside down.
All those visualizations were more of a representation of something that's going on. And I only say that because of how much backstory there is to my whole entire experience and whatnot. But yeah, if anybody wants to know more about that kind of thing, they just let us know in the comments. Even sign up for the Patreon, and maybe just then I'll.
Maybe we could like do a like a Halloween special or something like that, where we kind of delve into this a little bit more,
Yeah.
and see what we come out with.
Yeah.
Maybe educate ourselves a bit more and other people's experience or observations, people that have been more obsessive with this kind of thing
Right.
For a longer amount of time. Yeah, I would love that. And like if we could get something in the comments with any experiences of your own that you'd like to share, that'd be amazing. I'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can also read them off if that person so wants.
Yeah. I would love that. Get some audience participation.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Maybe we could set up something in the on the Reddit.
Right.
We'll have to look into that. I still haven't figured out how to use Reddit. Thank you for joining us on the Merle and Locke podcast. If you enjoyed this banter, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/merleandlocke or simply follow the link in the description. Thank you.